It's when the person you trusted to raise you, the person who married your grieving father and moved into your life like a savior, looks you in the eye and tells a room full of Boston's elite that you're just a server who got lost on the way to the kitchen. And says it with a smile. That's how it starts. That's how I find myself standing still, completely frozen, in the middle of the Langford Foundation Gala, wearing a deep plum velvet gown and heels I haven't broken in yet, as a security guard edges toward me, like I'm about to throw wine on the violinist or something. My name is June Harper Laramie. I'm 30 years old. And no, I'm not part of the staff tonight. But if you ask my stepmother, Marlene Langford, Boston's favorite silver-haired queen of charity, that's all I've ever been. A leftover, a stray, an inconvenience someone tolerated for years and finally got rid of. What Marlene doesn't know, yet, is that the man funding this six-figure event, the one whose name is very deliberately not on the press release, is about to walk through those doors. And he's not just my husband, he's the reason this ballroom exists tonight. So if you've ever been written off, discarded, or smiled at by someone who hoped you'd stay small forever, pull up a chair. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Take a second to like this video. Subscribe if this hits close to home. And if you've ever had to rebuild yourself from someone else's rubble, this one's for you. Now, let's listen to my story journey. It begins in a different ballroom, a smaller one. Less marble, more parquet flooring. It was the kind of event my mother loved. City fundraisers, local artist showcases, school auctions. She wore satin like it didn't crease and remembered everyone's name. I was 7 the last time she held my hand at one of those. The night she laughed with her head tilted back. Her perfume, a soft citrus trail in my memory. 6 weeks later, she was gone. Ovarian cancer. Rapid onset. No second chances. My father was a structural engineer who had built half of the new bridges on the East Coast. But he couldn't build a damn thing after that. Not even a conversation. He stopped talking, stopped shaving, stopped checking my homework. I lived with my aunt for a year while he got things in order. When he came back, he brought Marlene. And with her came Vivian. I was 10. Vivian was 10. She had corn silk hair and eyes the exact pale gray of our kitchen marble. I remember thinking she didn't smile like a kid. She smiled like a pageant coach. Marlene came into our lives like a storm wrapped in pearls. Within 3 months, our house had new curtains, new rules, and new family portraits. Ones where I was curiously cropped out for the final versions. But I didn't complain, because complaining made things worse. I learned quickly that silence kept things from escalating. I said thank you when she gave Vivian my mother's jewelry box. I said okay when she moved me to the smaller bedroom so Vivian could have better morning light. And when she called me high-strung in front of guests for crying on my mother's birthday, I just bit the inside of my cheek until it bled. That's what survival looked like. My father, he just faded. He worked more. He golfed more. He stopped asking how school was. Once, when I was 13, he gave me a ride to my violin recital because the car service Marlene scheduled for me got diverted. He sat in the 3rd row and clapped like his hands hurt. Afterwards, he said, "Your mom would have cried if she heard that." Then he got back in his Tesla and drove away. You ever wonder what it's like to feel like a ghost in your own house? To eat leftovers while someone else eats steak in your name? I used to dream of fire alarms just to see if they'd notice I was gone. But I wasn't gone, not yet, because I still thought maybe, just maybe, if I worked hard enough, if I smiled right, if I made fewer waves, I could earn my way back into their vision. I could make myself undeniable. The worst part is not the betrayal. It's how long you stay loyal after the betrayal has already happened. Marlene used to tell people I had a creative streak, which is a rich lady way of saying I didn't go to law school. I got into RISD, then transferred to SAIC in Chicago. Art history and curation. I paid for half of it with scholarships, the other half by working events. Yes, including galas. The irony isn't lost on me. You know what I used to do after every shift where a woman like Marlene gave me her empty champagne glass without looking me in the eye? I'd go home, scrub lipstick from rented glassware, and write in my sketchbook, "Someday, you'll walk in through the front of the ballroom." I didn't know then whose hand I'd be holding when I did it, but I knew it would happen. When you're a child and your world collapses, you don't process it with logic. You internalize it as something must be wrong with you. My mother's death was the first fracture. My father's withdrawal, the second. But Marlene, she was the landslide. She didn't scream, didn't throw things. Her weapon of choice was suggestion. Spoken sweetly, always with a soft smile. Vivian needs the room with better closet space, June. You understand, don't you? Let's not overwhelm your father with your little shows this week, okay? He's had a hard month at work. You know, not everyone thrives in the spotlight like Vivian does. That's not a flaw. Some of us are meant to support. I was 12 the first time she told someone within earshot, we're still trying to integrate June into the new family dynamic. As if I were an underperforming employee. Vivian, of course, didn't need integrating. She moved into my life like a queen reclaiming lost land. My old friends became hers. The piano teacher who once praised my sense of rhythm suddenly canceled on me, but stayed on for Vivian twice a week. And maybe I could have withstood all of that if my father had seen it, if he'd said one thing, anything, but he didn't. At dinner, he let Marlene talk over me. When I brought home a perfect report card, he blinked once and returned to reading the Langford Foundation's annual report. I stopped trying around 14. I started reading at the public library more, staying late at school, spending time in the art wing, where the silence didn't ask anything of me. I knew I couldn't change how they saw me, but maybe I could become someone else entirely. At 16, I got a summer internship at a local gallery. I lied and said it was for school credit, just so Marlene wouldn't interfere. I commuted an hour each way, dusted shelves, and served boxed wine at late-night exhibitions. But I felt alive. I felt seen. And for the first time, I met adults who didn't know my last name and treated me with decency anyway. Vivian, meanwhile, was being prepped for Ivy League perfection. Tennis lessons, SAT tutors, etiquette training. At 17, she had headshots done for her Harvard application. I got my first job at a bookstore and quietly applied to art schools under the radar. By the time I left for Chicago, the message was clear. You are not a daughter. You are a guest whose checkout date is long overdue. College was hard, but not in the way people expect. I didn't party, didn't chase freedom. I worked weekends, took double credits, and ate peanut butter for dinner more nights than I'd admit. And through it all, not a word from home. No care package, no texts, no, how's your first semester? Email. Marlene sent a single holiday card that year. It wasn't even signed, but I didn't break. Because by then, I'd stopped needing their recognition to feel real. After graduation, I stayed in Chicago. I found work at a small experimental gallery on the north side. The pay was garbage, but the people were kind. I started curating small installations, then art therapy programs for community centers. I lived in a shoebox apartment above a Greek bakery and smelled like flour for 3 months after moving in. But it was my life. Built with my hands, on my terms. Then came the winter of 2020, freezing, quiet, almost cinematic. The gallery was doing a soft relaunch after COVID closures. We had a shipment of mixed media sculptures from upstate, and I was elbow deep in bubble wrap and shipping invoices. That's when he walked in. Gray wool coat, dark curls still wet from snow. He didn't look like he belonged, not in the pretentious, I'm too important to be here way, but in the, I thought I was walking into the bakery downstairs way. Looking for something specific? I asked, brushing hair from my forehead. Honestly, he smiled. Just warmth and maybe a distraction. We talked for 2 hours. He asked questions, listened, asked more questions. He wasn't like the usual gallery walk-ins, those who name-drop Sotheby's like it's a relative. He wanted to know about texture, movement, why some artists used rust and decay as tools. He didn't mention his last name once. It wasn't until he handed me his card that I saw it. Simon Calder, founder, Calder Works Interactive. I blinked, then blinked again. Calder Works was one of the most respected urban design firms in the country. Smart tech meets sustainable architecture. He wasn't rich, he was rich. And I just spent 2 hours telling him How I believed art should be useless on purpose. I laughed out loud. Did you lose a bet or something? He tilted his head. Why? You just spent 2 hours talking to someone with an apartment smaller than your foyer. He smiled. What does square footage have to do with curiosity? That was how it began. Dinner. Then 3 more. Then walks by the lake. No flash. No status games. Just me and a man who asked how I slept. After 6 months, I let him into my story. Slowly, carefully, like unrolling a brittle scroll. The stepmother, the stepsister, the dad who watched it all happen from behind a newspaper. Simon didn't flinch. He didn't pity me. He said, some people walk through fire and still smell like rain. I didn't even cry. I just let myself breathe. A year later, he proposed. In the same gallery where we met. A ring hidden inside a sculpture. Private, simple, completely us. I took his name legally but not professionally. And when we quietly married 6 months later, just a small ceremony in our friend's backyard. I didn't send invitations to Boston because no one there had ever shown up for me. And I had stopped asking. It's funny how silence from family can stretch so long. It starts to feel like safety. After we married, I didn't expect anything. No acknowledgement, no olive branch. And for a while, I believed they had forgotten me for good, until the envelope arrived. It was thick, cream-colored, heavy enough to know it wasn't junk. My name written in calligraphy so forced, I knew it wasn't real. Inside, an invitation to the Langford Foundation Winter Gala, benefiting pediatric heart research at Newton Medical. The gala, her gala, and clipped to the card was a handwritten note. June, it's been too long. Let's reconnect. Family matters most. Marlene. I stared at it for a full minute, like it might light on fire if I blinked. Family matters most. From the woman who made it her life's mission to phase me out like an unwanted product line. Simon found me sitting on the kitchen counter, bare feet on the cold granite, invitation in one hand and wine glass in the other. He took the card, scanned it, and his brows lifted ever so slightly. I know this event, he said. Calder Works is one of the anonymous matching donors this year. What? I didn't connect the dots until now, he said, frowning. We support Newton Medical every December. I leave the details to our foundation team. But yes, this is partially us. It hit me then. She didn't send this because she missed me. She didn't even know I was married to the man writing half the checks. Marlene must have seen my name, June Laramie Calder, pop up in the donor registry and realized too late that I was back in orbit. This was damage control, image maintenance. But I wasn't the same girl she exiled. This time, I had leverage. I turned the envelope over in my hands. I want to go. Simon looked at me carefully. Are you sure? I want to go, I repeated. But not with you. Not right away. He leaned back against the kitchen island. You want them to see you first. I want them to guess first. We made a plan. I'd attend alone, on time. Simon would arrive late, casually, just before the speeches. His presence wouldn't be announced. The moment of connection, when they'd realize who I was and who he was, would be organic, or as close to organic as poetic justice gets. For the next week, I couldn't decide if I felt sick or electrified. I chose a gown in a shade of storm cloud gray, with subtle silver threading that shimmered when I moved. Not flashy, but impossible to ignore. The night of the gala, I got ready in silence. No music, no distractions. Just me, my thoughts, and the memory of every time I was told I wasn't enough. I kissed Simon at the door and took a car to the Langford Hotel downtown. I walked through those glass double doors with my head held higher than it ever had been in that city. The ballroom glowed in gold and ivory, chandeliers hanging like frozen fireworks. Every table had place cards with embossed names, wine glasses arranged like weapons of class. And there she was, Marlene Langford, still icy blonde, still impossibly slim, still smiling like she invented benevolence. She saw me, and her face, oh, her face. It didn't drop. It tilted, like someone trying to figure out if a ghost was real. June, she said, as if unsure whether I was human or hallucination. Hello, Marlene? I didn't think you'd come. You invited me. Well, yes, she said, recovering quickly. But you know how these things go. I didn't expect you'd be able to make it from Chicago. I assume you're still out there, doing art things? I smiled. Yes, still doing things. Vivian appeared beside her like a conjured shadow. Still porcelain. Still perfect. Still smug. June, she said, in the tone reserved for talking to ex-friends you've outgrown. This is a surprise. Hi, Viv. Did you drive here? She asked sweetly. I took a car. Uber Black. Private. I could feel the questions rippling beneath their skin. Why is she dressed like that? Why isn't she looking apologetic? Why does she seem unbothered? Vivian leaned in a little. If you're here to make some kind of statement, I'm here to enjoy the evening, I interrupted. After all, it's for a good cause. She blinked, lips pursed. I didn't offer more. I didn't have to. I'd already said more than enough just by existing in their space without begging for it. And just like that, the evening began. Soft music, shimmering wine, fake kisses on cheeks, and my heartbeat, steady now, waiting for the moment that would change everything. The room starts to settle as dinner approaches, clinking glasses, laughter that doesn't quite reach the eyes. I've made 2 polite laps around the silent auction tables and 3 laps around my own restraint. Then I hear it, Marlene's voice, echoing from the stage mic like a practiced performer. Ladies and gentlemen, she says, holding her flute of champagne like a scepter. Thank you all for being here tonight. We are deeply grateful for your support of Newton Medical's pediatric cardiology program. Our work would not be possible without the generosity of our sponsors, our volunteers. Her eyes scan the crowd. And of course, our staff. She lingers on that word, staff. And then she looks directly at me. In fact, she says, her voice dripping with sweet venom, it seems one of our event staff may have forgotten to change into the appropriate uniform tonight. A polite titter ripples through the ballroom. June, she says louder now. Darling, did you get lost backstage? I freeze. For a moment, it's high school again. It's every dinner party I was made to eat in the kitchen. It's the Christmas when Marlene announced the family photo wouldn't need extras. My mouth opens. Nothing comes out. And that's when she does it. Waves over a man in a black suit with an earpiece and badge. Security. The way he walks toward me is polite, deferential, but decisive. Like I'm a problem being moved off stage. Ma'am, he says, low voice. Could I speak with you for a moment? I was invited, I whisper, though my voice isn't steady. I have my place card. I understand. But I've been asked to confirm your role here tonight. Behind him, I see Vivian pull out her phone and start recording. Of course. Viv, I call out across the distance. Really? She shrugs. We just like to document things for transparency. That's when the old voices come roaring in. You're making a scene, June. No one wants your drama, June. Why can't you just accept your place? But instead of shrinking, something in me ignites. My role, I say clearly now, turning toward the guard and the gawking guests, is guest, donor, attendee, and human being, in case anyone here forgot what that looks like. Marlene makes a little scoffing noise into the mic. June, really, if you needed work, you could have just asked. There's no need to impersonate a patron. The laughter this time is sharper, less polite, more amused. People always love a public dressing down, until it turns. And that turn happens the moment the ballroom doors open. Simon walks in like a pulled thread in a too tight gown. All calm elegance and quiet confidence in a midnight suit. He's not flashy, never is. But people notice. Conversations pause mid-sentence. Forks hover mid-air. He scans the room, sees me, and walks with purpose. The security guard steps back instinctively. Vivian stops filming. Marlene's face tightens. She knows something is wrong, but not what yet. Simon reaches me, places a hand gently on my back, and turns to the guard. Is there a problem? She was being escorted out, Marlene chimes in, approaching the scene with faux concern. It's unfortunate, but necessary. Simon looks at her like she's a math problem that refuses to solve. And you are? Marlene's smile flickers. Marlene Langford, chair of this event, June's stepmother. The pause before that last word is almost comical. Simon offers her no handshake, no smile. I'm Simon Calder, founder of Calder Works, and June is my wife. A gasp rolls through the crowd. Even the musicians stop pretending to tune their instruments. Marlene blinks once, then twice, like her entire foundation's scaffolding is shifting under her feet. I didn't realize. I'm sure, Simon says flatly, which is interesting, considering Calder Works is the lead anonymous sponsor of tonight's gala. Dead silence. I wonder, Simon continues, almost casually now, how your other guests and donors would feel, watching you publicly humiliate the wife of the man funding the room we're standing in. Vivian actually drops her phone. It clatters to the floor, unacknowledged. Simon, I say quietly, trying to anchor him. He turns to me, expression softening. Are you okay? I am now. Marlene is scrambling. Well, clearly there's been a misunderstanding. June wasn't. No, Simon cuts her off. There wasn't. You knew exactly what you were doing. He turns to the guests, many of whom are now awkwardly pretending to check their phones or sip empty wine glasses. For those of you who came to support children's healthcare, thank you. But you should also know that this event's leadership structure will be reassessed before next year's gala. Marlene's mouth opens like she might object, but nothing comes out. Power rarely responds well to being caught on camera, especially when it's caught failing at its favorite performance, grace. I take Simon's hand. I don't want to leave anymore. I want to stay. And I want them to watch me do it. We don't leave, we stay. At our table, at the front of the room, under the chandeliers I used to imagine were too bright for girls like me. The mood in the ballroom shifts, not dramatically, but noticeably. The violinists resume a softer tune. People begin murmuring again, this time not about auction baskets or endowments. They're whispering about us, about me, about the woman who was almost dragged out, and then revealed as the very reason this night was even possible. I sit beside Simon, my heart finally settling into a rhythm that isn't panic. Vivian hasn't sat down. She lingers near the silent auction, pretending to read a placard about a luxury wine getaway. Her phone still in her hand, like she doesn't know what to do without it. Marlene, to her credit, has found a way to remain physically present, but spiritually departed. She floats between donors, offering tight smiles, complimenting gowns, pretending that a social grenade didn't just detonate under her charity crown. I think they're recalculating, Simon says, slicing into his appetizer. What? Their expressions, their opinions, their strategies. Recalculating how to frame this in their heads so it makes them look good again. I smile faintly. Let them. It's exhausting, isn't it? He nods. Weaponized perception always is. Our server, bless him, brings wine with the kind of trembling reverence usually reserved for priests or celebrities. I thank him by name. He blinks, nods, and says, "We're all rooting for you." And just like that, something clicks in me. This isn't humiliation anymore. This is transformation. My name, my voice, has filled a room that once chewed me up and spat me out. And now, people are watching me. Not in mockery, but in recalibration. Suddenly, Uncle Drew appears. My father's brother. Still wearing those garish gold cufflinks shaped like golf clubs. He leans over the table, faux chuckling. Well, our little June grew up and married into royalty, huh? I blink slowly. Hello, Uncle Drew. Didn't know you still kept ties to the family, he says, eyes flicking towards Simon. Not that I blame you for being quiet about it. Sometimes it's best to keep things private until you secure the bag. You know what I mean? Simon raises an eyebrow. You're referring to my wife as the bag? Drew laughs awkwardly, waving a dismissive hand. No offense meant, just an expression. We're all family here. I stare at him. Let the words sit in the silence. Then I say, we were never family, Drew. Not when you stood by while I was cut out of everything. Not when you nodded along while Marlene gaslit me out of my own father's will. His face sours. That's ancient history, June. Everyone was grieving? No, I cut in. You were convenient. That's all you ever tried to be. And now that my last name carries weight, You want to pretend there was love behind your silence. There wasn't. He exhales, nods stiffly, and retreats without another word. Simon places his hand gently on my knee under the table. A silent check-in. A private, "You okay?" I am. For once, I actually am. Later in the evening, just before the final donation tally is announced, the MC comes to our table. "Mr. Calder," he says politely, "would you like to say a few words as our principal donor?" Simon glances at me. I nod once. He rises, calm and composed, and walks to the stage. The MC hands him the mic, already smiling for photos. Simon's voice, always low and steady, cuts through the chatter with ease. "Good evening. I hadn't planned to speak tonight. Our contribution was made anonymously, as we believe that real philanthropy isn't about attention. It's about effect. But after the events earlier this evening, I feel compelled to say something." The room stills. Marlene stiffens in her seat. This gala supports a deeply important cause, one we've backed for 3 years running. But tonight, something else happened in this room, something we see too often in spaces like this. He pauses, then continues. A woman was shamed publicly, not because she misbehaved, not because she was disruptive, but because she challenged a system that profits from deciding who is in and who is out. Eyes flicker toward me. I don't flinch. "That woman is my wife," he says. "And if tonight's display proves anything, it's this. Status means nothing if it isn't paired with decency." Murmurs ripple. I spot Vivian sinking lower in her seat. "I'd encourage everyone here," Simon finishes, "to consider what legacy you're building, not in dollars, but in dignity. Because children aren't the only ones watching. So are the people you pretend not to see." He hands the mic back, walks straight to me, sits. And the applause, tentative at first, builds, not roaring, but real. I take a slow breath and sip my wine. Finally, the air doesn't taste like performance. The next morning, I wake up to a phone vibrating on the nightstand and the faint smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. Simon's already downstairs. He's always up before me, always reading 3 articles by sunrise and grinding beans like it's a meditation. But my phone is the one lighting up today. The texts are relentless. Unknown numbers. Old numbers I haven't saved since 2014. "Hey June, hope you're well. So proud of how you handled yourself last night. Let's catch up soon. We should have never let time get in the way." Translation. We see you now. We want in. Even my cousin Callie, the one who once told me I was making up drama when Marlene left me off the family Christmas card, sent a bouquet to the gallery. Not to my home, to the gallery, where people would see it. I sip my coffee slowly, reading each message like it's an exhibit I've already curated. There's nothing in them I need, but I let them come, because I want to see who thinks I'm still available for forgiveness they haven't earned. Simon peeks in from the hallway, wearing his Sunday sweatshirt that says, "Ask me about public funding." "You're trending," he says gently. "Oh no," he grins. "No footage of you crying. Just you standing still, beautifully furious, while a rich woman makes a fool of herself." I raise my mug. "To poetic justice, then. And to controlled exposure," he adds. "Do you want me to pull the PR team in?" I think for a moment, then shake my head. No. Let it settle. Let them talk. We'll do something better than control the story. That better arrives 3 days later, in the form of an unexpected email from Janine Salter, my father's only sister. We hadn't spoken since the will reading. Back then, she had sat quietly in the corner, not defending me, not questioning the cuts made to my inheritance, not saying a word while Marlene wept into a designer tissue about honoring Thomas's wishes. She was silent, like most of them. But her message now is short and raw. Subject. I should have said something. June, I saw what happened at the gala. I saw the video. You deserved better from all of us. If you're willing, I'd like to meet. No cameras, no apologies for public show. Just the truth. Janine. I stare at it for a long time. Not because I'm shocked, but because this one feels different. Not polished, not strategic, human. We meet at a small coffee shop near my gallery. She arrives wearing a thick coat and no makeup, clutching her purse like it's armor. "Hi," she says softly. "Thank you for agreeing to this." I sit, I listen, she talks. About how she always suspected Marlene's grip on the family was more performance than love. About how my father, her big brother, stopped returning her calls after he remarried. About how she watched me disappear from birthdays and holidays and told herself it was none of her business. "I thought keeping peace meant staying quiet," she says, eyes shining now. "But silence is just cowardice with better PR, isn't it?" I nod. "It is." She reaches into her bag and pulls out a photo I've never seen. My father, mid-laugh, holding a young me, maybe 5 or 6, on his shoulders at a fair. She passes it to me without a word. "My mother took that," she says. "He sent it to me with a note that said, 'She's everything Rachel was, and then some.'" The lump in my throat isn't sadness. It's relief. He did see me once. Even if he forgot, we talked for nearly 2 hours. Not rebuilding a bridge, but clearing the debris. By the time I return to the gallery, I know exactly what to do next. Not to get back at anyone, not to reclaim something stolen, but to build what should have been built all along. I talked to Simon that night about an idea I've been holding close for years. A gallery space, but not just for exhibits. For kids, I tell him. Specifically for children navigating grief, trauma, the kind of pain that makes them question if they matter. He listens like he always does. No interruptions, no, "But will it scale?" Just, "What do you want to call it?" I smile. "The Thomas Laramie Foundation for Healing Arts." He nods slowly. I think he would have liked that. We begin planning, not just with money, with intention. We hire therapists, youth artists, community liaisons. We renovate a space adjacent to my gallery, turn it into a bright, airy studio with high ceilings and a wall where kids can paint anything they want. There are no portraits of donors, no plaques with names. Just one quote painted above the door in gold script. "You are not broken, you are building." 6 months later, we open the doors. And this time, everyone who enters through the front. The day we cut the ribbon for the Thomas Laramie Foundation is quiet. No press. No donors in cocktail dresses, just families, staff, and a soft breeze lifting the paper cranes hanging from the entry arch. It feels right, not performative, just real. Janine is there, wearing a pale yellow cardigan and holding the hand of a young boy. Her grandson, I learn later, who lost his father the year before. She hugs me, tight, without apology, no more words needed. Inside, the walls breathe color. There's an entire section of the gallery called the Silent Rooms, where children create whatever they want without critique or rules. Clay, paint, collage, crayons melted into chaos. I stand near the back and watch them. These kids, some fidgeting, some smiling, some completely absorbed in the freedom of it all. And I think, this is it. This is what all the pain had to make room for. Later that week, I receive an envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside is a single sheet of stationery with Marlene's handwriting. "June, I understand we have little to say to each other, but I do hope you know I truly loved your father, and I did what I thought was best for the family. Congratulations on your foundation. It's been featured in several circles already. I trust you're making a difference. Marlene." No apology, no acknowledgement of what she did, just a gesture. I place the note in a drawer, not because I value it, but because I've learned sometimes closure is just knowing what someone is capable of and what they aren't. Vivian, for her part, never reaches out. I hear through gallery friends that her lifestyle blog took a hit after the Gala incident went viral. Brand partnerships quietly dropped. Her social media accounts went dark for a month. Apparently, it's harder to promote your elegant, intentional life when there's footage of you laughing while security tries to eject your stepsister from a children's hospital fundraiser. I don't feel vindictive, just finished. Simon and I are having dinner on the back porch one night, 6 months post-launch. The lights twinkle above us like low stars, and there's a little jazz playing from the kitchen window. He reaches for my hand across the table. "How does it feel?" "What? To be free?" I laugh softly. "I don't know if I am. I mean, freedom's not like a moment, is it? It's more like something you practice." He nods. "And tonight, Tonight, I say, I feel free. We toast to that, to practice peace, to lives that took longer to bloom, but bloomed anyway. That night, I can't sleep. Not out of restlessness, but out of fullness. I sit in the living room with a blanket and my father's old watch. The only thing I kept after being kicked out of our house at 18. It's not fancy, just a worn leather band and a face slightly scuffed at the edges. But it ticks. Still, faithfully. I whisper to the quiet room, "You should see what I've done with your name, Dad." The clock ticks back, as if to say, I know, time doesn't always heal. Sometimes it simply reveals. And what it's revealed to me, over and over, is this. You don't owe your abusers reconciliation. You owe yourself peace. It's a rainy Tuesday in late fall when I get the message. It's from the Langford Foundation's new director. Someone young, earnest, polite wording, clear intentions. They're asking if I'd be willing to speak at next year's gala as a featured guest. Not because of who I married, not because of what happened, but because of what I've built. I sit with the request for hours. I stare out the gallery window, rain streaking down the glass like melting thoughts. I think about every child in my foundation who has said, I thought it was my fault. Every teenager who has sculpted their pain into something beautiful. Every grieving parent who has walked into our studio and left, not healed, but heard. And I realize I don't need that ballroom anymore. Not even to make a point. Not even to stand in the light. Because I am the light now. I write back, thank you. I'm honored by the invitation. But I believe that evening is best reserved for those still fighting for their first yes. Wishing you a powerful event. Warmly, June Laramie Calder. I hit send. And feel no sting of regret. Because power isn't proving someone wrong. It's choosing who gets your presence and who no longer qualifies. Weeks later, I'm standing in the main room of the Foundation Gallery. It's warm. Kids are laughing. There's glitter on the floor. A paintbrush sticking out of a shoe. A chalk drawing of a girl with lightning in her chest. And I feel it again. That hum in my bones. Not adrenaline, not victory, just the calm certainty of being where I belong. One of our new interns, a quiet young woman with silver glasses, asks if I'll stay late to review some new proposals. I smile. Of course. She pauses. Then hesitant, she says, do you ever wish you could go back and make your family see you sooner? I think about it. Not for long. No, I say. Because it took that exact distance for me to find myself. They didn't see me, so I had to learn how to see myself. That saved me. She nods. I watch her carry that answer like a fragile egg in her hands. We lock up together. The night is crisp. The kind that makes you breathe deeper than usual. Simon's waiting outside, leaning against the car. The second I open the passenger door, he smiles. How was today? Messy, loud, beautiful. So, a typical Tuesday? Exactly. We drive in silence for a while. The streetlights blur past like soft lanterns. Then I say, almost to myself, you know what I used to want? He glances over. What's that? To belong. And now? Now, I whisper. I want to make space for others to feel it first. We pull into the driveway. The porch light flickers on automatically. And I think about everything that brought me here. The girl I was, the woman I became, the family I lost, the one I chose. If you're still reading, still listening, let me tell you something I wish someone had told me when I was standing in the corner of that ballroom, heart in my throat. You are not the problem. You are the proof that survival is possible. You are not here to beg for space. You are here to build it. So go. Walk through the front door of the life you want, even if you have to build that door yourself. Thank you for being here with me. If you've ever been betrayed by the ones who were supposed to protect you, drop a comment below. Let me know what gave you the strength to walk away, or what you're still learning to carry. Like this video if it found you at the right time. Subscribe for more stories like this. Stories about loss, rebuilding, and the quiet power of coming home to yourself. Wherever you are, whoever you are, you belong, you matter, you're already enough. And the right people, the real ones, will never need proof. Good night, and thank you for listening to my story.